In today's video, we will be taking an unboxing and overview of the CiT Terra PC case. So this is an MATX PC case, and of course, as you guys know, it's a budget case. And I paid on Amazon £45 for this case. So yeah, I paid £45 on Amazon for this, so I think that's a fair price for what we're getting. And basically what we're getting is pretty much the standard sort of flip case. So it has the tempered glass, it has the 4 ARGB fans, 3 at the front, 1 at the back, or 1 at the rear. It has the PSU shroud. Annoyingly, it does have a PSU window, but anyway, we'll gloss over that. And then it has some cable management at the back, and also a fan controller actually as well. Even so, for £45, that's quite a lot of value. And this one is actually quite a special one because it's in white. So we're going to be doing a white build with this actually. So please subscribe to see that white build with this case because I think it really will look awesome, and I'm really looking forward to that one. But I think now, without further ado, let's unbox this case and see what it's like. So here it is, the CiT Terra. And what do you think? I think, really, I'm actually quite impressed on first looks. I don't know about you guys. It actually does look quite impressive. So, as you guys can see, styling wise, for the front there, it does look a bit like that Fractal Design Torrent. I don't know if you've seen that one in terms of how it's kind of like, it's all kind of designed at the front sort of grille there. It's kind of a bit like that. But yeah, initial impressions, you know, it does look really nice actually in this white. I really do like this white. It looks really great, and hopefully it's going to come out in the camera okay. I've got kind of white background with a white case. I'm a little bit concerned, but we'll see how it goes. As you guys know, I kind of do the front first, then we go to the top, then we go to the rear, underside of the case, rear panel to see, you know, is there actually any cable management here or not, and then obviously the front for the front glass and the components that you're going to install. So let's concentrate at the front. As I said, it has got that sort of Fractal Design Terra, Fractal Design Torrent look, and it's called the Terra. This is the CiT Terra, so it's they've kind of nicked it. They kind of it's kind of the same, isn't it? But anyway, it doesn't matter. It works for me. It looks fine. There is actually, I think, yeah, there is like front mesh to this, but I'm not sure if there's a front mesh filter. It doesn't look like there's a filter, but let's take the front off. Basically, there's 3 120mm fans, I believe they are. So yes, just had a look now. The fan support is either 3 120mm fans at the front or 2 140mm fans at the front. And then in terms of the radiator support, you can have up to a 240mm radiator or a 280mm radiator. But the 360mm radiators aren't supported in this case, just so you know. But anyway, let's get the front off and then we can see that. So there we go, there's the front off. Looking at the back, no, I don't think there's a separate filter there. So that is what it is. Like I say, no separate filter, but I don't think a lot of people are going to care too much about that. Just be aware, if this is your own PC build, you probably are going to have to clean it out a little bit more regular if it doesn't have that filter, because obviously the dust and what have you might build up a bit quicker without the filter. Now I'll try and put some B-roll over here as well. Once I've done the actual PC build, I'll try and put some B-roll of the actual fans lit up, so you can see the fans. They are, like I say, ARGB fans, and I can see the connectors all at the back are ARGB, and there's actually a connector for each individual fan, so that's kind of nice. And as I said, there is actually a 4-port fan hub at the back as well, so you'll be able to connect up all these fans by default. The only problem is, if you want to put any more fans into this case, you either will need a separate hub or some kind of separate way to actually power all that. So that's a little bit of a downside, but we'll look at that in a bit. But yeah, I do think overall, the fans do look nice. Yeah, they have that, apparently the fans also have the infinity sort of effect as well, that sort of ARGB infinity effect going along. So I don't know if you've sort of seen that in the case before, but I will try and put up the light in a B-roll so you can actually see that, guys. But yeah, I think pretty much we covered the front there. Decent fan support for the front, and it certainly works, and it's nice to have the free at the front pre-installed for you there, so that's great. And then we move to the top. In terms of the fan support at the top, there is obviously a dust filter as well, which is pretty standard, and it looks like it's only two 120mm fans at the top. Yeah, only two 120mm fans at the top, but you can fit a 240mm radiator at the top as well. So there is actually a little bit of space there before you actually hit into the motherboard. They have allowed you a little bit, and I'll show you that as we get into the case itself. But that's okay support there, I think, at the front. Let's take a look at the front panel now. So already, just before we get to the front panel, I can certainly see this becoming a dust problem very quickly. That's the only problem with white. It's the only thing I don't like about it, but it does look very clean. So I have gone for this white case instead. But I do admit the black case is kind of, you know, will hide that dust a little bit easier. So if you're concerned about that, I probably would just go with a black build. But anyway, the big clicky power button first, going left to right. And then we have a reset button with like the hard drive and the power LEDs right by that. I don't know whether the reset button will control the fans, but we'll have a look at that. It could be like an override for the fans to actually change the colours on the fans. We then have one USB 3 port, which isn't great because now we do have two USB 2 ports by it as well, and they're situated in between a headphone and microphone jack. So at least you do get the headphone and microphone. At least you do get the headphone and microphone jack separate, rather than having to do that splitter thing, which I don't like doing. But yeah, three USB ports overall. That's enough for a lot of people. Just a shame two of them are USB 2s rather than just having two USB 3s, but doesn't really matter too much. It's a budget case for £45, so you can't expect too much. And also there's no USB-C support at the front, but again, most people using budget micro ATX motherboards in a £45 case aren't going to need front USB support, so that's fine. So as you can see, there's a little grill up here at the top for the rear of the case. And that's obviously just for your radiator to breathe a little bit, but it does give you that little bit of space before it hits the motherboard there at the top, so you can have a little bit of space for your radiator. Then just a standard 120mm fan at the back here. There is a little bit of play in terms of up and down, but there's not a lot. And obviously you can't get a 140mm fan here either. But it does have one pre-installed already, which is the 4th ARGB fan. And if I didn't mention it before, the fans are in white as well. So it does kind of all fit in with that white theme, which is nice. Sometimes on cheaper cases you might get black fans with a white case, and obviously that looks horrible. So it's nice that it all comes with white fans. They've kind of thought about things, CiT here, so it's kind of nice. Then we just have a standing motherboard cutout for your I/O panel. That's all standard. Again, this is a budget case, so when we go onto the PCI brackets, they are all the one-time snap-off type ones, so don't love that. Yeah, so again, one-time snap-offs aren't great, but you know, you can get around. In fact, I think actually two of them might not be one-time snap-offs now looking at it, but I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, the one-time snap-offs aren't great, but it's there. And obviously, it's a micro ATX case. So you only have 4 PCI brackets because that's the micro ATX standard. But you can put an ITX case in. You can put an ITX motherboard in here if you wanted to as well. But it wouldn't look that great, but you can, just so you know. But obviously, ATX is out. Obviously, you can't do that. Then we just have our standard PSU cutout here for your power supply. Looking at it there, it does look like it supports either the power supply fan up or the power supply fan down, so that's actually nice as well. So it gives you that option. Although looking inside the case, there doesn't seem to be any filtering for that, so I would highly recommend you put the fan side down, because there just isn't any filtering for a fan. In fact, I don't know why they've done that, because there doesn't look like any filtering on the inside, so I don't know why they've enabled you to put fan side up, because your fan's going to choke on your inside there because there's no filtering. So put the fan down on the power supply here. Then moving on to the underside of the case now, and again, pretty standard for a budget case. Everything, like I said, it's all kind of pretty much standard nowadays in terms of case design, isn't it? So let's have a look at this. One of those really funny power supply dust filters. Again, you can't take them out like this way, that like you would for one of those more premium cases. But again, this does the job. A little bit fiddly at getting these things back in, I must say, but can be done with a little bit of patience. There we go. Also, it does have 4 quite large feet, so you've probably got about 2 centimeters or maybe an inch off the desk there. If you do put your PC on a desk, and if you're very odd, you put it on the floor, but try and keep it on the desk, I would highly recommend, because otherwise you're going to have problems with dust and what have you, or being on the floor. But anyway, it's up to you. Yeah, so that will enable your power supply to breathe a bit, so that's all good. Then we just have the hard drive cage, so there's 4 screws there, if you can see that on the camera. There's 4 screws, so you can take out the hard drive cage there if you want to. I think for most people they probably will just leave this in, but it can be removed if you want it to be. And again, by now, you probably know exactly what I'm going to say if you've watched enough of my videos. So yeah, I just needed a screwdriver just then. For some reason these thumb screws are a little bit tightened down. But yeah, what I was going to say was the big thing with every single budget case that we've looked at here on the channel, and the big thing that I always mention is, does it have rear cable management space? Because it's no use having a budget case if your cable management is compromised and it looks crap, because then it defeats the whole object of having a cheap case, because then it just looks cheap build and it's nasty. So we want to do a good cable management job, so let's have a look. So I'm happy to report that looking at the rear cable management, it does look to be about 2 centimeters or so. I think it's 22 millimeters to be exact, it said on the case. On the case box, but there is actually a fair amount of room. I can certainly run my thumb across that quite comfortably. Certainly your 8-pin EPX power cable from your power supply, that will certainly fit in no problem, even if you've got a little bit of a fatter one. And even your 24-pin on this side should be okay. I mean, there's enough space, but again, I wouldn't say there's plenty of space. So you are going to have to be fairly careful with your cable management. And if you're like me, with this build I'm going to do white cable extensions, so it'll look all nice and fancy. And I paid only about £9 for those cable extensions, so that's not bad. But just be aware that there isn't loads of space here. So cable management is going to be a little bit confined, I think. It's going to be enough, but I think it is going to be a bit of a challenge, so just be aware of that. But I think for most people who are looking to flip PCs, which is probably what this case is aimed at, is towards a PC flipper, they're going to be so experienced with building PCs that I don't think that's going to be a problem for people. But I do think if this is your first case that you're building your first PC in, maybe look for a different case, because it does look a little bit tight, if I'm honest, on the cable management side. So a nice bag of screws there, with even a speaker, which is actually nice for a beep speaker. If you've got problems with booting up or something, you can put that in. Plenty of screws. They're all silver ones as well, so it kind of fits in with the white theme a little bit nicer rather than the black screws, so that's nice. And then we also got white cable ties as well, so not many, but there's probably about 3 or 4 of them in there, so you can do a nice enough job here. I certainly wouldn't have a problem with using black cable ties though, if you do need to. As long as it's at the back of the case, it should all be fine, and people won't see that anyway. But I think overall you can do a nice enough cable management job here, but you are just going to have to be a little bit careful. So let's move on to the actual cables that you get. So first of all, the HD audio. We don't like to see this, but it is what it is. Ketchup and mustard cables and all these colour cables shouldn't be there. This should all be blacked out, but minor little problem that you're always going to get with budget cases, but we let that go just about, but I'm not happy about it. We've got a USB 2 header here as well, which again has that horrible coloured cables coming out of it, which again I don't like, but it is what it is. A USB 3 header for your USB front header, for your USB port, your USB 3 port at your front of your case. Pretty standard there. And then we have the power switch, the hard drive LED switch, and the power LED switch. Sorry, the power switch, the hard drive LED, and the power LED cables. So the reset cable is actually, as I said, the reset button does control the fan hub here, but we'll get to that in a minute. So that fan controller here, it's built in. It is potentially removable as there is 2 screws here. Although I don't know where you'd actually reposition it if you could move it. But I think it's fine there. It is black, but obviously it's behind the motherboard tray, so you're not going to see that on, the user's not going to see that, so that's fine. As I said, the reset switch is controlling the actual changing of the colours, that's great. All 4 of the case fans are pre-installed into the hub with the 4 ARGB connectors here and the 4 fan header power cables here, so like your 3-pin ones. They do actually have, for the ARGB, they do have like an extender as well, and I believe that comes off, yeah. So these little extenders, if you can see that on the camera hopefully, so potentially you could actually if you had another fan, you could potentially plug it into one of these, and I think it would extend on to actually control the ARGB through the hub. And then it does have it needs a power connector here for the SATA power cable, so you just need a SATA power cable from your power supply to power it. And then you have a ARGB header here to plug into your motherboard, so a 5-volt 3-pin addressable ARGB header on your motherboard, or the J Rainbow one if you're MSI. Yeah, so pretty decent sort of fan header there. I think that's okay. There are actually 2 additional ones, but they're for power strips only. They're not for fans, those ones, so just as you know. But I think you can, again, I don't want to say for 100% sure, but I think with these extenders you can potentially plug a an additional ARGB fan into that and actually control it all through here. But probably what I would actually recommend, if I'm honest, is to take the back fan, the rear fan here, and to actually move that onto the CPU cooler, which is probably what I'm going to do, and then just don't run a back fan, don't run the rear fan, and just leave that out. That's probably what I'm going to do anyway. So it all kind of, it's all in the system that way, so that's good. So looking at the bottom here, you do have support. This is like the actual this is the actual hard drive tray if you want to take that out, and from what I can see there, you can install a 2.5 inch on the top, although you can't actually install a 3.5 inch there, so you might actually have to take out the whole tray in order to install a 3.5 inch drive, so just be aware of that. Although you can fit an additional 2.5 inch SSDs here. There's actually one which is there at the side, if you can see that there, and then one there at the side. And we get, for the power supply clearance, is 170 millimeters up until the tray. But if you take the tray out, you can get even further. But I think for most people, that's more than enough for the power supply length. So yeah, overall, the official support is 4 SSDs or 1 hard drive, with I think the 2 SSDs at the back, but I'm not exactly sure. To be honest, again, I think most people aren't going to use hard drives anyway, so I think most people are just going to go with the. I probably would put the SSD here actually at the bottom here, and just on top of that tray, and then probably just put a few of the cables under that tray or something. I don't know. It's up to you guys. You can put them at the side here, but I don't love putting the SSDs at the side there personally. And we do have a big cutout for the your CPU cooler. If you're upgrading it or something, you've got a massive cutout there, so you can easily change all that, change your CPU cooler out and what have you. And then we do have 3 decent holes for cable management. The only thing I would say about the cable management is that if you've got an extended M80X board which goes out to here, I don't know how you're putting the cables through, because you're going to have to put them through here only. So that's not very good. They haven't thought about that. If you've got a smaller M80X board, it's fine, because you'll be able to fit them through here. But if you see what I mean, maybe when I show the inside, it actually doesn't fit up for a bigger board, so that's not great. But anyway, they're all there, and there's enough cable tie points, cable tie back points here. all around the case here. So I think overall, yeah, you can do a decent job on the cable management, but it's not perfect. So I believe this one is the slide out version for the tempered glass here. Now the tempered glass is the full case length as well. So yeah, it's the full case length for the tempered glass, but obviously you do have the power supply window as well, which is a bit annoying in the power supply shroud, but hey, that is what it is. So I believe this just slides out. Yeah, that slides out quite easily. There you go. Now I forgot to say there's a user manual that comes with this as well, so that's actually really nice just to see. So if you're a first time builder, you'll really appreciate that. So moving to the inside here, a good power supply shroud, but as I said, the PSU windows are a little bit annoying, but hey ho. Probably what I would do is I'd probably get some A4 paper and potentially just stick some A4 paper around there, just so you can cover up this window. But again, it's up to you. You can just leave it there, but just be aware if you're using a black power supply that most people are. If you're using a black power supply like most people probably will for a budget build, it is going to look a little bit funny with a black power supply here with the white case. So again, I don't know why manufacturers do this, because especially in a white build, even more than a black build, you don't want to see the power supply at all because it's just going to look so ugly with the white build. So annoying, but it is what it is there. But overall, I do think it looks quite spacious, the case. It looks fine. Like I say, the 3 fans here at the front with the one at the back. For the sort of inside of the case, like I say, there is plenty of cable management holes here, which is fine. But as I was saying, the cable management holes basically aren't long enough. Because if you've got a small motherboard, it's fine, because obviously up to here is where you'll feed your cables through, and then your motherboard ends sort of around here anyway, so it's okay. But if you've got an extended motherboard that comes out to here with the 8 screws, because this is where the motherboard's going to finish, because that's where the 7th and 8th screw are, is here, then you're going to need feed the cables through here, which and it's just not going to look good. So just be aware if you do have an extended, well, not an extended, but like a full-size M80X board, which has the 8 screws rather than the 6 screws, then just be aware of that. It's not going to look great in this case, but it'll be alright. And one thing I do actually really like here, if you can see that, there's actually space for a graphics card power supply PCIe cable here. So you can run your PCIe cables to your graphics card through that little slot there in the PSU shroud. So that's really nice, because otherwise you have to kind of run it through the side slot here, which this sort of bigger slot here, which doesn't look very good. But to run it through here looks a lot better, and it would be a lot cleaner build as well doing that. So that's nice. And there is 3 on the power supply shroud. There is 3 sort of main cable routing holes here at the bottom, so you'll be able to do a fairly good job of all your like HD audio cables and your USB 2 front panel headers and all that sort of stuff. So that'll look quite neat there. That'll be fine. And it does come with 6 pre-installed standoffs, all in like that kind of default micro ATX position. So that's kind of nice if you've got, like I say, the smaller board, that's going to fit in straight away without you having to do anything, so that's nice. And there is, as I said, if you can see that on the camera hopefully, there is plenty of clearance there at the top, so you should be able to get a radiator in fairly easy at the top. But I think for most people doing a budget build, they're not going to bother that anyway, so I don't really see that being too much of a problem. If you can't get the radiator in there, then it's okay, but you should have plenty of space, and it should be possible for a 240mm radiator there. In terms of those important specs that you're waiting for, the graphics card length is 330mm and the maximum CPU cooler height is 160mm. So good clearances there overall. Most of those Thermalright CPU tower coolers are about 148mm, so you'll have clearance of that, which is what I'm going to use on here. I'm going to use a nice white one, so it's going to look good. And I'm hoping we can get a nice white graphics card as well, because it will look really good. Like I say, 330mm on the graphics card is more or less, it's pretty much any card on the market now anyway. And there does look a fair amount of space before you get to the end of the case here, so you should be able to run all your wires and stuff fairly comfortably. And even if you do have those 40 series graphics cards, you should even be able to fit them in here, actually, to be honest, because there looks like enough space in between there, in between the PCI slots and when the case ends, if you see what I mean, over here. Don't know if you'll be able to see that on the camera, hopefully there. But there does look enough space there, enough clearance space. And actually, it looks like on the power supply Stroud, I don't know if you've seen this, but it looks like you can actually put SSDs or even a hard drive there as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But there does look like mounting for that, so you might be able to fit in another SSD there if you wanted to. So yeah, I think overall the CiT Terra looks like a really nice case. I can't really see a lot wrong with this, really. As again, PSU Stroud window, don't like them. Please stop doing this, manufacturers. But overall, for £45, I do think you've got a decent case here. Can fit in more or less any graphics card you want on the market. Can fit more or less any CPU tower cooler on the market, apart from maybe those bigger noctua ones, but you're probably not going to use that in a budget case. And for £45, you can't argue too much, seeing as you do have 4 pre-installed Infinity ARGB fans. So it looks pretty good, and it does include the fan hub as well, even for that price as well. So a lot of value here, I think personally. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a potential good flip case for you guys? If you are looking to flip PCs, obviously, or if this is maybe a personal build you're thinking of building, then maybe you know, do you think this would be good for your personal build? Or if you've got any more questions about this case and what have you, then obviously let me know. There will be a PC build with this case, hopefully the next video after this one. So please subscribe to see that. Please like the video if you did like this little video, and obviously please comment on, like I say, what you think of the case and what have you. And overall, I think that's the video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.